Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the Built Too Tough to Talk. This series is brought to you by the MYH Podcast, and on this series we ask those questions that people want to ask but sometimes find them a bit too tough to ask. And on this particular episode I speak to my good friend Andy Bishop. Andy Bishop runs Man Gang, which is a men's support group, and he's also a health and safety consultant as well as a fellow Make It Visible team member. We were both down in London a few weeks ago and we thought, why don't we get together and have a chat about his diagnosis of bipolar? And that's exactly what we did. And on this episode, Andy speaks very openly and honestly about his journey with bipolar and how he got to where he is today. Now, if you have ever been affected by bipolar, please let us know in the comments below how you had to reach out for a bit of help and support and what were the changes you've made in your life. And also, if some things ring a bit true with you that we speak about, please see in the description below where you can reach out for a bit of help and support. Other than that, I hope you enjoy the episode and I will speak to you all very soon. People have a lot of misconceptions about bipolar and what it really means. If you could sum it up or you had to give the description to somebody in a brief description of what bipolar is to you, what would you say to them?
It is what it says on the tin. It's so everybody's familiar with the North and South Pole. Not everybody's familiar with the differences between the North and South Pole. One's got land under it, the other one hasn't. One's got mountains on it, the other one's got deep blue ocean underneath it. And bipolar. It's two different extremes, but often the same kind of effect. So one of the most widely misunderstood and mislabeled of all the mental health disorders. I say one of the most, pretty much all of them do. Obsessive compulsive disorder, for example. Somebody that likes things in a neat and orderly fashion often say, oh, my OCD's going mental. It's not, they just like things, the neat and tidy thing. And that's the same with bipolar. Generally, when I ask people, or people find out that I have a diagnosis of bipolar disorder, they say, oh, yeah, I know, my missus gets that, or such and such gets that. And I generally kind of know what's coming next. Yeah, they can be up 1 minute, down the next. And I wish it was that fucking simple, mate. I really do. It is up 1 minute and down the next, but those minutes last forever. So for me, my stages of bipolar, I've got several different stages that I go through, which help me to identify what I need to do to manage it. The depressive stage, it's not like just a bout of depression. So I've experienced clinical depression aside from bipolar. And that can be a very emotional time. I mean, I'm using emotional there as we kind of use emotional to describe the tears and the lack of awareness and stuff like that. When I'm in a bipolar depression, I've got no feeling. I am a zombie. I could be sitting with Michael McIntyre on one side of me and Mickey Flanagan on the other. We could be out and all these things, like two of the greatest comedians in the country, and they could be going at it hammer and tongs, and I would just be, wouldn't be able to laugh, and would not be able to laugh. You just can't feel. It's the most peculiar sensation when you don't know why. It can get very, 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 very lonely very, very quickly. But the depressive stage for me is, and this is one of the reasons why bipolar gets misdiagnosed so much. It takes such a long time for it to get a correct diagnosis of bipolar, is because if you're a bloke, what do we do when we're feeling low? We fucking mask. And when I'm in a low state, I can't let anybody know. I never used to be able to let anybody know. It's changed now. And I used to over-egg the pudding. I used to be the funniest. You would think I was in a manic phase, but the opposite was true. It is. Yeah, weeks at a time. Often without warning. Generally I get warning signs, but sometimes they do come without warning. But yeah, it is misunderstood. I don't understand it fully. I just understand and I accept that I have that diagnosis.
What do the highs look like or feel like? Or both?
The highs, mate. What do we associate with being high? being high since time immemorial has been associated with feelings of euphoria, you know. For the way that I cycle through, I go into quite a long drawn out hypomanic phase, so in the low stages of mania, and it's where I can recognise that I'm going into the mania. One of the first indicators for me is my sleep. I like sleeping. I can sleep with the best. I like an old man's half hour as much as the next guy, you know. If I'm at home and if I'm alone and if I would normally be going for an old man's half hour and I don't feel that need, like after lunch or something like that, then I get a little alarm bell ringing, because it's absence of the normal, if that makes sense. So that's usually the kind of thing. So the hypomania, I'm starting to go into the low forms of mania. If I can catch it at the right moment, I can start dealing with it. I can start making myself tired, so get up in the physical activity. I know that the sleep's going to start going soon. So just try and keep myself nice and busy. Like the best parts and this sounds, you don't associate best parts with mental disorder, but I tell you what, mate, it's like a superpower. I am so creative during the hypomanic phase. It's where I do some of the best bits of writing that I've done. Like if I go into a talk when I'm in a hypomanic phase, I'm so in the moment and I become this Shakespearean kind of actor, you know. But it's all genuine and it's coming from the heart, because nothing can touch me. So I use that. I use that as a superpower, and I kind of program it in as well.
I was going to say to you, before you got the diagnosis, did you tend to try and keep yourself in those hyper manic stages?
Yeah. So that kind of reflects then onto the depressive stage, the opposite pole. I had a reputation. I like being hypomanic. I'm not going to lie to you. In that area, if you could stick a syringe into me now and pull bipolar out, I'd say just leave that bit, just that little bit, because yeah, it's great. So that was historically, that was the bish that I had to be. You know, that was the Andy I would present to the world, is almost the hypomanic, because that was when I could give compliments and take compliments, and I would look for praise from other people to fuel my ego, you know. It was like, get out of the way, I'm coming through. I could achieve great things in my head.
Yeah.
Some of the things I achieved on that. Generally the hypermanic phase, so the next stage up, that's when it gets dangerous. That's when it gets really dangerous. Inhibitions go. Sleep gets, what's sleep? Don't eat that shit. And then I'm down at 2, maybe 3 hours sleep a night. I've gone through weeks sometimes on getting like broken sleep. That's dangerous. Luckily for me, the next stage, because I've only been in the psychotic stage once, which was, that was dangerous. I lost a week. Literally have no idea what I did, where I went. And this is you might laugh at this. As well as the visions of grandeur, as well as this enhanced ego, this creativeness, this energy, this boundless enthusiasm that I get with the hypermania, I also become the richest man alive. And I tell you what, mate, my bank manager doesn't always agree. So this particular spree that I went on, and this was shortly before I was actually diagnosed, and this is one of the things that they use, and they went, fucking hell, this is, well, obviously the psychiatrist didn't swear, way more professional than that, but they were like, this is like, that's the nail in the coffin, if you like. This is the deciding factor, because I've gone out and I'd come to London, and I'd spent a little bit of money. And this was before we were just coming into chip and pin and all that kind of stuff. So it wasn't until I got the bank statement like a month later, and I'd spent like 25k in 3 days.
Goodness me. Yeah. And when you were in that stage, you just like, let's keep going.
No receipts, mate. I had no idea where I was. I know I was in London because some of the receipts or the statements it was like there's a bar in Leicester Square, Waxy O'Connor's, and I know that because I've been there before, and I'd spent like fucking £300 in there. I don't know who I was with. I haven't got a clue. So yeah, there's a plus side of bipolar if you see this coming through Leicester Square, like giving it all this kind of stuff. You know, let's see, jump on the back of this because you're gonna have a great weekend. But 25k mate, 3 days.
Sweet.
I did have a denim jacket to show for it.
Have you still got the denim jacket?
No, fuck, lost that. I'd like to say it was like a Emporio, Moschino, Armani, whatever, I know, some designer brand, but yeah, it's bog standard Levi Strauss 501 jacket, about 50 quid worth. So yeah, it wasn't completely wasted. It did look good in it.
When you got the diagnosis for bipolar, was it like a wake up moment? You think, Jesus, that's why all this was going on?
So yeah, a wake up moment. It was no, it wasn't. It really wasn't. So I got diagnosed. I was actually in the Priory. I was in the Priory Hospital in Woking. And yeah, the reason I was in there was because I'd had a breakdown in work. Yeah, big breakdown. I've reflected on this a lot, and this is some quite recent reflection as well. I was supposed to be going out right for the day. I was supposed to be taking a group of school children, 15, 16 years old, so army cadets and school children. I was taking them out onto an explosives range to kind of show them what the army is like, what kind of life it was in the army. I was supposed to be doing this, working with high explosive, plastic explosive and detonators, like proper safety critical kind of stuff. And the day I got admitted into the Priory, I'd got up in the morning and I can't remember what kind of mood I was in. I can't remember what kind of bits and pieces were going on. I know I wasn't right. I think my judgment was clouded by the medication I was taking for just depression. I say just depression, I'm not devaluing depression at all, but I was taking antidepressant medication, and that's as I since find out, if you're bipolar and you're taking antidepressants, it counteracts, because the higher mood picks up on the kind of serotonin release, and it goes, whoa, we got some more of this, let's capitalise on that. And it's pretty dangerous. You've got to have other kind of medication to stabilise it. So I'd had this meltdown. I'll never forget it, right? I believe that everything happens for a reason, because that day, my best mate Dunk, he was detailed to be my driver for the day. And when I didn't turn up to pick up the explosives, because I was running the range, he got a bit concerned. Like, that's not like Bish, it's normally there. And he came and found me collapsed in a heap in my room. In my uniform, boots polished, beret on my head, rucksack on both shoulders, literally ready to go out the door, and I was just a big collapsed heap in the room. Something had just like basically pushed me and went, you ain't fucking doing this today. So yeah. And then he got in touch with his boss, who's another good friend of mine, a chap called Dog, who came and got me. And looked after me for the day. Basically, he took me to the doctor. The doctor then said, right, you need to go see the army psychiatrist. The army psychiatrist that I'd been seeing for a while about the depression and stuff. He sat me down and he had a long conversation with Dog, because Dog knew me quite well. And then that afternoon, I found myself in this Priory Hospital. So I was out of my comfort zone. I was in this manor house, a stately home, you know. Like an hour ago, I'm supposed to be playing with explosives. I'm not playing, using explosives professionally. And then next thing, I've plucked out of the environment that I'm safe in, and I'm in this civilian hospital. People having me on suicide watch for like every 15 minutes, and loads of people there. And I don't mean to devalue this in any way. There's loads of people in there. There was lots of people in there for addiction therapy. There's people there that were capitalising on Bupa healthcare and just having a couple of weeks respite, which I thought was like, hang on, this is a hospital, you're abusing the system. And And it was like, I don't belong in places like this. And straight away the barriers came up, you know. I didn't trust anybody in there. I didn't trust any of the people there at all. I remember the distrust. And it was only when I started, like, I was talking to the psychiatrist. I remember a big tall man, big fella, pinstripe suit. He wouldn't look out of place walking around the city of London, you know. And it was one of the days when I was sick, because I've seen him like every other day while I was there, and I was seeing with the nurses and working on the rest of the people. So it must have been about 2 or 3 weeks into it. And he came in with an army medical corps tie on. So it must have been a Friday, corps tie Friday. And I recognised his tie. And I went, "Are you an army medic?" And he said, "I used to be." I was like, "Why?" And then that distrust that I had of all the rest of the system and everything, I was like, I can relate to this man can relate to me, I found one of my own. And then shortly after that, I'd been a lot more open with him then. It was like, right, I've got somebody I can trust here, I know these people, I can trust them. So shortly after that he said, right, he said, this is what's going on. He said, bipolar disorder. He said, everything is pointing towards it, everything that you've told us is bipolar. And I was like, right. And I'd heard the words before. So this is 2008. I'd heard the words bipolar before, but did I know what it was? I can guarantee I didn't. I guarantee my perception of it was bipolar is somebody that's happy in the morning, grumpy in the afternoon. Somebody that's laughing 1 minute and then just takes a phone call and they're grumpy. That was my view of bipolar, because that's what we learn about, and unless it affects you, you don't really kind of research it. You just take it as read that that's what it is. I was like, right, okay. And I think the next question was like, what's that then? And he gave me a very brief overview. Told me what it was, but it was more about the treatment of it. It's like, yeah, we'll give you this and we'll balance out your moods. I'm like, yeah, brilliant. Because I was of the view that, as a lot of men particularly are, you get a headache, what do? You take a tablet, don't you? How quickly does that tablet work? Relatively quickly. You neck a glass of water, you take a couple of paracetamol, 20 minutes, half hour later. And that's the view we have of medication. Certainly for me, that was the view. There's something hurting inside me, I'll take the tablets, hour later I'll be fixed. It don't work like that. It don't work like that at all. But I didn't ask any questions. Programmed not to ask questions, programmed to ask, especially when a colonel, even if he's a retired colonel, tells me that's what I'm trusting him. Don't have any questions. Take these, you'll be all right. And off I went. Yeah, it was a rocky old road. With the exception of taking the medication, I kept doing what I'd always done. And you know yourself, mate, if you keep doing what you've always done, you keep getting what you've always got. Just with an extra bit of medication to take, you know. So yeah, it was. I didn't have a clue what it was. Didn't have a clue. It's literally only in recent times, I say, probably in the last 6 or 7 years, 8 years, I've actually come to terms with what bipolar is and how I can manage it. But yeah.
Did it have an effect on friendships, relationships, and stuff like that when you came out of being in the Priory for that length of time, and you said to people, "Well, I've got bipolar"?
Didn't tell people, mate.
You feel ashamed of it?
You're damn right, mate. Yeah.
Take your time, mate. You're all right.
I'm starting to cry now because this is been with my partner Zena, right, for 15 years now. I hope I've got that right, or she never watches this, one of them. So we got together just before I got admitted to the Priory, probably about a month before. We've been together, early stages of dating, you know. We were getting on like a house on fire, and it was love at first sight. And the day, I'll never forget, I was standing outside the psychiatrist's office in Aldershot. Dog, my mate, had gone in and he was trying to chat to the psychiatrist and do all the bits and pieces, and I was like, oh, phone's Ina now, because we were supposed to be on a date that night, and it was a Wednesday night. We were supposed to be going out for a meal or something like that, and I phoned her up and I said, gonna have to cancel the date tonight. She said, why is that? I said, oh, I'm not very well. I said, been to see the doctors and this and that. And then she's like, yeah, that's absolutely fine. Well, I'll see you tomorrow, or give me a ring when you're better. And I was like, yeah, I'll call you a bit later, that kind of thing. So left it at that, and then went back into the psychiatrist's office, and that's where he said, right, this is what we're going to do. This is the plan of action. We're going to put you into the Priory Hospital. Priory. Well, I associate the Priory Hospital with like Paul Gascoigne. Whenever I think of the Priory, I think of Paul Gascoigne. I think of Robbie Williams, because I'd like read Robbie Williams' autobiography, and he went in there to get clean off his addiction and stuff like that. And I thought, you put me in the Priory, that's fucking serious. Because it costs a lot of money, because people like Robbie Williams and Paul Gascoigne go in there, so this is fucking serious. And we came back outside, and I remember standing outside with Dog, and we were smoking cigarettes. So I go and make a phone call, mate. And I went phone Zena back. I said, look, I can't just cancel the date. I said, we're gonna have to call this a day. And she said, why? I said, I'm about to get admitted to a psychiatric hospital. I don't know when I'm going to be out. I said, so I can't put you through that. I basically decided the fate of our relationship because of what I was going through. And what she said next, she said, do I get a say in this? And I was like, okay, no. I said, are you not going to run a mile? I said, I'm going to a psychiatric hospital. I said, I don't think you know what that means. She said, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. And I was like, oh, fair play. 15 years later, we're still together, you know. She's been a rock through all of it. An absolute rock. And I put her through some shit, man. Fucking right, I put her through some shit. She knows. She knows it's when the good times, you know, the good times. She knows that when I'm going through the bad times, that it's I can control it to an extent, but I've got my coping mechanisms, and she helps me through them. She's an angel. Wow, I wasn't expecting that. Yeah. So yeah, acceptance and things like that. Yeah, I don't know if she hadn't stuck by me, she'd come and visit me all the time. I would escape from the monotony of being in a psychiatric hospital. You know, I'd get some semblance of reality. Because she was coming there, they would let me go out. They would talk to her, and they would educate her about what I was going through. So she would listen. Whereas I was just like, yeah, whatever, bipolar, fuck off. So yeah. It's yeah. I forgot what the question was you asked me now.
No, that's it. Thank you very much, Andy. For a hug.
No, I'll be alright for now, mate. We'll have one in a bit.
Yeah.
We'll have one in a bit. Fucking love a man hug as much as the next man. We're a bit snotty, and you don't want snot on your t-shirt there.